Hi, I'm Skinny Cheeks. Today I'm going to do something a little rare for me and venture outside of the DPS realm and go over the top monster sets for support roles. All of these monster sets drop from the final boss on their specific dungeon, which I will list on veteran mode. This video won't be exactly like some of the other top sets videos I've done where I rank them in a specific order. Since a lot of these aren't necessarily better than others, you just change what you use depending on the situation. So instead, I'll list them all by category. This also isn't necessarily a list of all monster sets that can be used by tanks and healers either. It's specifically a list of the best monster sets for adding additional support to your group. Sometimes selfish sets can be okay, especially when learning new content or tackling some of the most challenging content in the game. And if that means you are able to get through it and your group already has all of their needs covered, by all means go for it. So I just wanted to get that quick note out of the way in case there are people just appalled that a certain set didn't make the list. These are sets that offer group support only. And thank you to Code, Hatchet, Shortbus, and Torin for taking a look at this list and giving me your thoughts on it. So the first category will be sets for generating ultimate. First up we have Blood Spawn. This comes from Spindle Clutch 2. The one item is add stamina recovery, and then two items, when you take damage, you have a 6% chance to generate 13 ultimate and increase your physical and spell resistance by 37-31 for 5 seconds. This can occur once every 5 seconds. So for Blood Spawn, this is usually only useful on a tank since the proc chance is a bit low and you need a lot of incoming sources of damage to get it reliably, but when you can get it to go off a lot, it is a ton of extra ult generation and a nice little boost to your defenses as well. Not a super popular option for trial tanking, but definitely can be useful situationally if you are focused on that ult generation. Next up we have the new monster set, Baron Zadris. This comes from the Cauldron. So the one item adds 548 max stamina, 548 max magicka, and 603 max health. And the two items says, applying a status effect to an enemy grants you a stack of Zadris' ambition for 10 seconds up to 3 stacks max. When you gain 3 stacks, the stacks are removed and you gain 4 ultimate. On gaining ultimate, you cannot gain any additional stacks for 1 second. So for this set, I do admit that with it being as new as it is, I haven't seen a ton of testing with it, but I can see it possibly being pretty nice for ult gen with the right setup. You'll need to make sure you're running a setup which would be applying status effects at a really high rate. I did try it a couple of times on DPS setups when testing on the trial dummy, and it was usually enough ult return to get an extra ultimate off over the 3 to 4 minute parse, but that generally wasn't enough to outweigh the damage given up by some other monster set. As support, however, it might be a little more useful since you won't be needing a damage set. So one to keep an eye on for sure. We'll see how it plays out this patch and what people start coming up with. Definitely the potential for a lot of ult gen with it though. Alright, the next category will be healing. Healing is an interesting form of support in today's game because for most content, you don't need extra healing in the form of a monster set, and can get by with just the tools you have on your skill bars. However, there are certain situations that call for extra healing or where extra healing can make the fight a little less sketchy, and some of these monster sets can work pretty well for that. So I did want to briefly talk about Chokethorn, even though I'm not recommending it. I think it is a somewhat popular set though, so I'd like to go over it. Chokethorn is unfortunately not very good for group content as it only heals one person at a time, and that heal may go on yourself. Even for a situation where you might want to focus on healing one person, it still wouldn't be super reliable to do unless you're running a dungeon as a duo or something. So these next 3 sets are more common and more reliable if you're looking for a little extra healing power. So first off we have Night Flame. This comes from Elden Hollow 2. The one item adds max magicka, and then the two items, when you heal yourself or an ally, you have a 20% chance to summon a totem for 6 seconds that heals you and your allies within 5 meters for 2460 health every 1 second. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So even though the healing tooltip on this one is lower than Chokethorn's, it is an AoE heal, so the group can benefit from it instead of just one at a time. And still, like I mentioned earlier, extra healing is not needed for most fights, and this set would be overkill on a lot of them. However, if you feel like you need a little bit extra, for example in the final phase of the Fallgraven fight on Kain's Aegis, this might be a good option for you. Next up is Earthgore. This comes from Bloodroot Forge. So the one item adds healing done, and then the 2-piece is when you heal yourself or a group member that is under 50% health, you conjure a pool of quenching blood underneath them, immediately removing all previous enemy placed effects and healing the lowest health group member in the area for 29,700 health over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 20 seconds. So this one again is only healing one person at a time. However, unlike Chokethorn, it will continuously swap with each tick and heal whoever needs it instead of being locked onto one person. It also cleans up ground AoEs and has a pretty long duration and a high tooltip. So one of the nice things here, especially compared to Night Flame or Chokethorn that have the random proc chance, is that it is guaranteed when someone is under 50% health. So it procs in a scenario where it is much more likely that someone needs that heal other than just randomly having a chance to come out. And then we have Troll King. This comes from Blessed Crucible. The one piece adds 4% healing done, and then for 2 items, when you heal yourself or an ally, if they are still below 50% health, their health recovery is increased by 925 for 10 seconds. Troll King, like Earthgore, is also guaranteed when the proc conditions are met, and with Troll King there's no cooldown. This makes it a really popular choice in scenarios where your teammates are guaranteed to hit low health, like the final phase of Zamaja in Cloud Rest, when she hits 6 people with a Baneful Mark that reduces their health and puts a healing debuff on them. Or in Sunspire on Locustes, where you have to heal your teammates out of ice cages that also behave similarly. Like the other healing monster sets, can definitely be overkill in a lot of scenarios, but can be really nice for situations that call for that additional little boost. The next category will be Resource Return. Again, this will be support focused, so while a set like Engine Guardian can be very nice for your personal resource return, this will be focused on sets that boost the group. First we have Sentinel of Rikugams. This comes from Darkshade Caverns 1. The one piece is 4% healing done, and then for 2 items, when you heal yourself or an ally, you summon a Dwemer Spider that heals for 1000 health and restores 125 magicka and stamina to you and your allies within 5 meters every 1 second for 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. This does provide a little healing as well, but it's mostly used for the resource return. It isn't a huge amount and isn't always reliable, as sometimes the spider that it spawns will be outside of the group. It can be noticeable if you get most of the ticks from it though. It also does provide both mag and stam, so it's nice regardless of spec, and the effects can stack if worn by multiple people. Probably not going to make or break your group if someone has it or not, but a nice little boost to have nonetheless. Next up we have Symphony of Blades. This is in Depths of Malatar. The one piece adds healing done. The 2 piece is when you heal an ally who is under 50% of their primary resource, grant them Meridia's Favor, which restores 570 magicka or stamina every 1 second for 6 seconds. This effect can occur every 18 seconds per target, and the resource return is based off the target's highest maximum resource. So this set used to not have a cooldown per target and could be stacked with multiple people wearing it for some ridiculous resource return. So now with the cooldown, it's still great to have on one support, but not really any reason to run it on more than one person since the cooldown is per target, not on the wearer. Nice thing about this is that it comes when you need it, when you're under 50% resources, and so it doesn't proc randomly when you are high on resources and you don't need it. The one catch is that you do have to heal the person to give them the buff, so if no one is taking damage to be healed, even if they get low on resources, this will not proc. I've had a couple of situations where as a DPS, I realize I could get this proc but I'm not taking any damage, so I'll dip my toe into an enemy AoE real quick to make sure it happens. Don't tell any of my group's healers though. Overall, this is a great set to have in your group though. The next category will be defensive sets. Similarly to healing sets, they aren't always needed, but can give you a little extra breathing room. I wanted to briefly mention Thurvokun, with Minor Maim being reduced to 5% damage reduction, and this set being nerfed to have a longer cooldown, doesn't really have a whole lot of use now. If enemies healing themselves were more commonly seen in PvE, maybe it would, but I think this is more of a PvP option now. It is a defensive set, so I wanted to bring it up, but I think the other options we'll mention are probably a bit better. First we have Lord Warden. This comes from Imperial City Prison. The one piece adds armor, and then the 2 piece, when you take damage, you have a 50% chance to summon a shadow orb for 10 seconds that increases the physical and spell resistance of you and your group members within 8 meters by 3180. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So definitely better suited for a tank since it procs from damage taken and has an armor line for the one piece, but there are probably situations where other support could wear it too. This can be pretty nice when a group is stacking close by the wearer. It ends up being close to 5% damage reduction, so again, it's not make or break, but it can take some of that pressure off. Next we have Vykosa. This is from Moonhunter Keep. The one piece is healing taken, and then the two piece, when you bash an enemy you've taunted, you frighten them with a deafening howl, applying major cowardice to them, lowering their weapon and spell damage by 430 for 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. This set is limited usually to a tank since it does have that taunt requirement. It can be really nice situationally though when timed well by that tank. For example, in Asylum Sanctorium, a tank could use this before each Storm of the Heavens phase, where St. Olms sends lightning out toward everyone. Ideally, people avoid the lightning, but this could give a little wiggle room if someone makes a mistake or finds themselves in a tight spot. Next up, we have Lady Thorn, which comes from Castle Thorn. This adds max health, and then casting an ability that costs health spawns a blood ball for 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. You or an ally near the blood ball can activate the Sanguine Burst synergy, dealing 5,000 disease damage to nearby enemies and applying Major Maim for 8 seconds, decreasing their damage done by 10%. Enemies can only receive Major Maim from Sanguine Burst once every 20 seconds. So the introduction of this set meant that finally all classes outside of Necromancers now have the possibility of a self-synergy. And Major Maim isn't the 30% that it used to be, but still 10% damage reduction can be pretty nice, especially since it procs in an AoE around everything hit by the Blood Ball bursting. This also allows for self-application of sets like Alkosh, which is why I'll also include it in this next category. So now we'll go over the support sets that increase group damage. I'll go ahead and put Lady Thorn right back up here. Like I said, this does allow you to apply something like Alkosh to the enemy, which previously was only available if you had someone from your group supply you with the synergy, or if you were a Necromancer casting Avid Boneyard. Ideally, you'll have enough synergies to keep up Alkosh without it, but as we know, not all situations are ideal, especially if pugging a dungeon or something. So it's really nice to have to be able to apply yourself. So next up is Incratus's Behemoth. This is the new set from Black Drake Villa. So the one piece is Max Magicka, and then dealing flame damage to an enemy grants you Behemoth's aura for 12 seconds that reaches up to 12 meters. You and up to 11 group members in the aura reduce flame damage taken by 5%, and enemies in the aura increase their flame damage taken by 5%. This can occur once every 15 seconds. So I guess this could have technically gone in the defensive section as well, but will be far more commonly used for the increased flame damage than the reduced flame damage taken. We don't have a lot of monster sets that directly increase damage dealt, so this is now a must-have in groups with Magicka DPS. Some classes will see a bigger boost than others, but in in-game trials, usually all Magicka DPS are dealing some form of flame damage, and we'll see a DPS increase from this. Then we have Tremor Scale. This drops in Vollenfell. One piece is max stamina, and then the two piece, when you activate a taunt ability on an enemy, you cause a Dune Ripper to burst from the ground underneath them after 1 second, dealing 6,000 physical damage to all enemies within 4 meters and reducing their physical resistance by 2395 for 8 seconds. This effect can occur once every 8 seconds. So this will be run by the main tank usually, since it does have that taunt requirement. It is pretty much a must-have for groups that run stamina DPS, or else reaching the penetration cap of 18,200 will be pretty difficult. Since Stam DPS don't get penetration from their medium armor bonuses like Magicka DPS do with their light armor bonuses, this is really needed to help fill in some of that gap. Alright, that's going to do it for this one. Remember, if you didn't see your set that you like on here, I'm not saying that this is everything that can be run by support roles. These are just the options that do provide some sort of support to the group, not just the wearer. Thank you so much to my current patrons on Patreon. I really do appreciate the support. If you want some more info on that, it is linked down in the description. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.